Senator Josh Hawley of the Senate Judiciary Committee promises a new Supreme Court litmus test, saying he will only vote for Supreme Court nominees who explicitly acknowledges Roe v. Wade was a mistake.
I say today, I will vote only for those Supreme Court nominees who have explicitly acknowledged that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided the day it was decided.
This new litmus test Senator Hawley announced last week would be a new standard for Supreme Court nominees. Roe v. Wade was the 1973 Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion nationwide. Joining us now from Capitol Hill is Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. Senator, welcome back to the show. Can you clarify what exactly you are wanting to hear from Supreme Court nominees in order for them to receive your vote?
Well, I want to hear that they understand that Roe v. Wade was an act of judicial imperialism. It's wrongly decided. It represents the day that the modern Supreme Court decided to say that they'll just make up the law and they won't even try to ground it in the Constitution or in the laws that Congress wrote. I think if a judge cannot acknowledge that, whatever their personal views are, I don't care what their personal views are, one way or another, I don't care what their legal views are, because that's the job they're being nominated to. And if a judge can't acknowledge that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided, then I can't support him or her for the court.
Would Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have passed this litmus test?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think they were ever asked, and that's part of the problem. I think we have not had a clear standard on this issue. And listen, I also think that we're at a different point now than we were in decades past, where we've had 11 of the last 15 Republican justices appointed by Republicans, that is, 5 Republican justices currently on the court. And I think, unfortunately, the evidence of this term is that the imperial judiciary is alive and well. Roe, I think, is a window onto a judge's constitutional worldview, and for that reason, their understanding of Roe versus Wade, I think, is directly relevant, and it's certainly a question that I want to see answered.
Senator, you really challenged your Republican colleagues in your Senate speech last week. Let's take a listen.
Republicans have said, vote for us, and we will undo this wrong. We will return this issue to the people. And yet, all these years later, 11 Republican-appointed justices later, here we are.
Senator, you're a Republican. You shared how many Republican politicians have failed to deliver on some pro-life promises. Why is that happening, and what changes do you want to see within your own party?
Well, I think this is why we've got to get serious about judicial philosophy, and we've got to begin with Roe. I mean, Roe really is a window onto a judge's constitutional worldview. It tells you whether or not that person is a judicial imperialist or whether he or she has a chance, at least, of being a true constitutionalist. And this is why I think it's time to start asking these tough questions. And by the way, what I want to see is record evidence that a judge has taken this position. I don't want personal assurances. I don't want predictions about future votes. I don't want any of that stuff. I want to see some evidence in the record that at the time the judge was nominated for the Supreme Court, he or she had acknowledged in the past that Roe was wrongly decided. And again, if that evidence is not there, then I won't be able to support them.
Is your new litmus test truly a good indicator of how a jurist would rule on the bench? I mean, we've heard Chief Justice John Roberts say he believes the Texas Hellerstedt decision was a mistake, and yet he just sided with the abortion business in the recent June Medical Services Supreme Court case.
Yes, I think it is a good beginning, but by no means the end. I mean, I'll have a lot of other questions for would-be judges as well, including where they are, for instance, on the Heller case, where they come down on Second Amendment rights. I mean, there's going to be a whole list of other things that I want to ask about as part of the confirmation process. But I think it's time to put down a marker, for myself at least, that says that they're not even going to get past the first gate with me unless there is evidence that they understand that Roe was wrongly decided. I do also think, by the way, that it takes some guts to say that. I mean, there's a reason that you see judges out there who won't say anything about Roe one way or another, supposedly conservative judges and justices who just will absolutely, they go out of their way to avoid saying anything. It's because it is politically contentious, and because it takes some guts. I think it is a show of courage as well as good judicial judgment to be able to say, you know what, yeah, Roe was wrongly decided, and it may be the precedent of the court now, but that doesn't prevent me from saying that it was wrongly decided in 1973.
The late Justice Antonin Scalia did not like to be considered a, quote, pro-life jurist because he saw his role as interpreting a law and not getting a result. Does your litmus test require a nominee to be result-oriented on the bench? And could that be a dangerous precedent for our nation?
Well, it certainly requires them to put their dime down on Roe, and I think that matters for their judicial philosophy. Because to say again, if you think that Roe was rightly decided, and as a judge you're okay with that, that tells me that you are okay with judicial imperialism. And that has consequences across a range of cases, whether it's the First Amendment or the Second Amendment, whether it's the Takings Clause, and we can go on and on. But if you think that the court, that in its modern role, is doing the right thing by putting itself at the center of every major decision, by taking for itself powers that are supposed to belong to the people and their elected representatives, then frankly, I don't want you serving on the United States Supreme Court. And the question about Roe begins to get at that whole judicial philosophy.
Finally, Senator, if a Supreme Court seat opened up before the end of 2020, would you vote to confirm a Supreme Court justice nominee, yes or no?
Yes.
All right, well, there you have it. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, thank you.